have a critical eye regarding what you see on social media. Okay? A lot of the stuff that is currently circulating is not real. There's a large portion that is real. There's a large portion that is not real. And whether you are, rooting for Palestinian liberation, or you are, sympathizing with occupiers and settlers, regardless, you need to have a critical eye to understand what is happening, right? Now, one of the stories that is being shopped around, I guess, on social media is this. Now, allegedly, it shows some Israeli IDF soldiers rubbing their bullets on a pig's head. They're gonna go out and do war crimes with that. Okay. One thing to note, these people are not using weapons issued by the IDF. They aren't using, they aren't wearing IDF uniforms. Nothing about this is, Israel is putting out pigs' heads to more effectively shame and destroy Palestinians. This is not real. The propaganda around this is not real. Okay? Did this happen somewhere? Sometime? Yes. Did it happen in this conflict? I have no idea. But I do know that it's purporting to show IDF soldiers rubbing their bullets on pigs. That's not actually a thing that is happening. The IDF is not doing that. Yeah, if I had to put my money on any of this, it's neo-Nazi, militia fighters somewhere, possibly years ago. This is something that, Americans, American neo-Nazi groups, LARP about doing, okay? Yeah. So, again, just be aware. Here's a guy commenting on this, Magitech Dad on Twitter, whom I actually like quite a bit. You should all follow him. Pretty sure this is propaganda. Those aren't IDF uniforms. I don't see any insignia, and most telling, the IDF doesn't use the M16 or M4. Their standard issue is the Tavor TAR-21. So, again, don't just believe things sight unseen. Make sure the information you're getting is coming from verifiable sources. Make sure it's coming from people who do their due diligence, Already we've seen, members of the squad posting pictures of, dead people from Syria. And saying, oh, this is the IDF killing children in Palestine. Well, it's from Syria. Again, these are things that could be avoided. Children are being killed in Gaza. But we don't need to use, don't use proof of one war crime as proof of a completely different, unrelated war crime. That's all I'm saying. Take a few minutes. Now, yesterday, folks, again, there have been a lot of developments over the last, couple days related to Israel's war on Hamas. And as a bit of a refresher, Israel has called up over 360,000 reservists, stationing them on the border with Gaza. This supplements their, I believe, 150-some thousand standing army that are standing on the border of Gaza. And this weekend, basically the entire time, they looked poised to begin a ground invasion. That did not happen, allegedly, from sources, unverified source, or not unverified, but anonymous sources within the IDF. That did not happen because of torrential rains in Israel and Gaza. So we had a bit of a reprieve from a ground invasion of Gaza, which is good. It gives more time for people to escape, as best they can to the southern part of Gaza. And it also gave more time for diplomatic maneuvering to get the Rafah border crossing open. Now, as far as I know, Egypt is still closing the Rafah border crossing to Gazan refugees. One of the main things that Egypt hates, if you will remember from when we learned about Turkey in our video going over kind of the history of Turkey, Egypt has a long-standing hatred for the Muslim Brotherhood, of which Hamas is a branch. And Egypt really, really, really doesn't want to let in a bunch of Palestinian refugees that they view might harbor pro-Hamas, pro-Muslim Brotherhood tendencies and could easily radicalize these standing refugee camps that Egypt already has from the last 100 years of Israel creating refugees in the region. Now, that being said, the Rafah border crossing was opened to aid, which had previously just been sitting right on the other side of the border crossing in Egypt, waiting to go through. And here we can see a video of Egyptian border officials allowing aid trucks to go through, finally, after days of making them sit here. Now, that just warms the heart, because each of those trucks is carrying absolutely necessary supplies to the people in the Palestinian people. Like, they need water, they need fuel, they need food, they need everything. In some cases, the UN and other NGOs are estimating that there are hours of water, hours of electricity left. Again, by the end of today, they're estimating most power generators in the Gaza Strip are no longer going to be operational due to lack of fuel. So, again, this is sorely needed. Additionally, Israel announced that it was restoring some water access to some parts of the Gaza Strip, which is good. However, one thing you need to remember is that they've been bombing the shit out of the Gaza Strip, which means that even if water is restored from the Israeli end, it can't necessarily get to where it's needed in the Gaza Strip because the water pipes have been blown up, or there's no electricity on the other end to turn on pumps, or, there are so many different levels of access, and if no one can even get water out of the pipes in the first place, well, then it doesn't mean jack to turn on the water on the Israeli end anymore, This is, it is a colossal horror show over there. Additionally, chat, and this is, just no good, in addition to aid resuming through the Rafah border crossing, Israel has bombed the Rafah border crossing multiple times. In fact, since the beginning of hostilities on October 7th, the Rafah border crossing has been bombed 4 times. One of them being today, after the aid corridor was opened. So this is a message here from the Egyptian media company Mada Masr, which says, and this is through Google Translate, so take it with a grain of salt. Urgent. Israel bombs the Rafah crossing for the 4th time. A short while ago, Israeli occupation army aircraft bombed the road between the Egyptian and Palestinian terminals at the Rafah land crossing, according to 2 sources, one of them an Egyptian working at the crossing and the other a journalist on the Palestinian side, who confirmed that the bombing did not result in casualties among the dozens of Palestinians with dual nationalities gathered near the crossing on the Palestinian side, hoping to leave. This is the 4th time that the occupation forces have bombed the crossing since October 7th. So, again, the people on the Palestinian side cannot leave yet. So chances are that aid that went through also got bombed? Yes, or the road itself got bombed. One of the big things is people are less and less likely to want to drive aid into Gaza because they're just indiscriminately bombing. And I should say, this isn't an instance of indiscriminate bombing. There have been reports, maybe just like an Air Force commander was feeling particularly vindictive one day. Maybe it was a rogue pilot who decided to drop bombs. No, this is part of their plan. Their plan is picking out targets and bombing them. That includes the Rafah border crossing. You don't just accidentally bomb the only humanitarian corridor that Palestinians can take. That's not something that happens on accident. So, again, on top of this, we have domestic pressure increasing on Joe Biden and the Democrats, which is unambiguously good. We have protesters taking action that make their daily lives increasingly inconvenient in a way that is increasingly difficult for them to ignore. Here is Joe Biden at, I believe the, Human Rights Campaign's event just a couple days ago.
Thank you for defending equal rights and dignity of all people, despite intense opposition and hate-filled rhetoric, even violence besides people movement. You're inspired. I want you all LGBTQ Americans to know the Biden-Harris administration has your back. I know who's hollering down there, but thank you for...
Again, we gotta keep up pressure like this, Another work of protests today, I believe, a bunch of Jewish Americans and I believe Palestinian Americans gathered to protest directly in front of the gates to the White House. Let's see if I can pull up a picture. Yeah, here we go. 4 hours ago. Pro-Palestinian Jewish protesters clashed with police outside the White House. In a call for the end to genocide in Gaza, a handful of Jewish protesters who joined a pro-Palestinian rally in Washington, D.C. on Monday were arrested, accused of blocking entrances to the White House. One of the organizations behind the protest, If Not Now, reported on X, formerly Twitter, that Secret Service police began arresting demonstrators after the group reportedly blocked off all entrances to the White House. The progressive organization also shared videos and photos of protesters singing and holding signs that read, "Stop genocide in Gaza" and "My grief is not your weapon." Today, thousands of American Jews and allies marched to the White House to demand that President Joe Biden use his leverage to implement a ceasefire and force Israel to halt its genocide of Palestinians in Gaza, if not now, told Newsweek in a statement. Led by American Jews connected with If Not Now and Jewish Voice for Peace, today's action represents a growing wave of Jewish, progressive, and youth leaders calling on President Biden to de-escalate the conflict, restrain Israeli aggression, and ensure the safe return of Israeli civilian hostages. And here's a video.
Ceasefire now!
Good beans. Good beans. And If Not Now is an organization of Jewish and Palestinian folks protesting for peace as well. If Not Now is also a very good organization alongside Jewish Voice for Peace. They're doing more than people on Twitter just talking shit, that's for sure. Yeah. No, like, one of the things I hope I've managed to do with my coverage is avoid trying to use it to get dunks on people, like, in the leftist politics space. I think I've briefly touched on a few people, but for the most part, I want to focus on these events, and using it as a pretext to attack other people is just awful, you know? But moving on here, here's a video again. This one is just kind of explaining how birthright works. So for a lot of you who don't know what birthright is essentially, or right to return, is essentially a policy that the state of Israel has that is designed to basically summon all the Jewish people of the world to Israel. That is what right to return is. It is essentially a standing offer to any Jewish person that you can come and live in Israel. And often that is where you see then stories of settlers who are actually from like New Jersey or Brooklyn. You know, they going to Israel and then winding up being part of the settler colonial project, taking Palestinian homes. This is how that happens. So here's a Jewish man explaining exactly how this works.
Birthright, the opportunity to come. You see, it's my birthright. For those of you who don't know, because I was born a Jewish man, I own the land of Palestine and Israel. It is my fucking blood right. That's not me saying that. That's the state of Israel, by the way. They told me, hey man, because you're technically a Jew, Israel's yours. It's always been yours. Come on down. Come see the homeland. This is me being a dick. This is the state of Israel literally saying this to me. If you are a Jewish person, they offer you what's called birthright. Birthright. The opportunity to come to Israel for free on the Israeli dime and see Israel.
By the way, again, it's not just an offer. It's not just like, oh, you can come here if you're Jewish. It's literally, we will fly you out here. We will wine you and dine you to get you to live here. You know, we will have an entire propaganda campaign to get you to move from wherever you are on the planet to Israel.
It's a timeshare pitch. It's a fucking timeshare pitch. They want you to come see the city, dance in Tel Aviv, eat some kebabs, kick some Palestinians out of their homes, and then they'll try and get you to move there. And they'll do it like this pitch, like it's family, it's unity, it's an Israeli homeland. Nah, guys, it's an apartheid state. It's the greatest shame of the Jewish people. It's disgusting. You want me to condemn terrorists? Easy. I condemn the state of Israel and I condemn Hamas, the terrorist organization supported by the state of Israel. That was fucking easy. Hamas is a puppet of Israel, guys.
True.
It was founded by Israel. It was funded by Israel with the sole intention of destabilizing Palestine, because it's really fucking hard for your country to get its shit together when the one political party being funded by your fucking enemy is Islamic terrorists. All right? And that's literally the explicit strategy of the Israeli government. All right, so yeah, I denounce terrorism in all forms. I denounce the baby killers, the Israeli state who is bombing a city full of children right now. Gaza's mostly kids, guys. 65% of the population is under 24. Half of them are under 18. It is a fucking city of kids. Every time on CNN or MSNBC for the fucking shit show you're watching in order to see all these kids get killed, every time they list the dead Gazans, half of it's just kids. That's the fucking math. Half of it's just kids. You want me to condemn savagery and barbarism? Fucking easily. Who's the savages? Who's the savages? The people living in the open air prison who are revolting? Or the people running the open air prison and carpet bombing children? We are not judged by how well we take care of ourselves.
Yeah, good statement. Don't know anything else about his politics, but everything he said there, essentially true. And yeah, no, like we'll get to this in a minute. But I held off on talking about this one a bit, but mostly because I believe that this comes from a reporter, or maybe I'm confusing this with something else. There was a clip going around that was coming from like Chinese state television, which I would implore you all to take with a huge grain of salt. I don't think this is that clip, but this is your concrete sign they are losing the media battle. The hearts and minds of the people are turning against these oppressors. So here we'll go over this clip.
من المسؤولين الإسرائيليين خلال
This is a member of the press here.
الأيام الماضية
ما انت مدافع
رجعني بشدور
بس ما انت بالشدور
كما
ما انت
نرى
مدافع
مشاهدينا
ما انت مدافع
مراسلنا
ما معاني انت بالشدور ها
مدافع ما
Okay. So, where are you from?
المسؤولين الإسرائيليين خلال
Nazareth.
الأيام الماضية
Nazareth?
ما انت
Yes.
مدافع
What are you
رجعني
saying?
بشدور
بس ما انت
One moment,
كما
I'm
نرى
now
مشاهدينا
live.
مراسلنا
ما انت
What are you saying?
مدافع ما معاني انت بالشدور
I don't care if you're on live. What are you doing? I'm saying the Israeli military is
מקווה
doing.
מאוד שאתם אומרים דברים טובים.
You
הבנת
better be
אותי?
doing
מקווה
saying
מאוד
good
שאתם אומרים
things.
דברים טובים וכל החמאס האלה צריכים לשחוט אותם. הבנת אותי?
בסדר.
כי אם אתם לא תבלחו את
تهديد
האמת
علني نرى
أوي
على
فأبوي
الشاشة
لكم.
الآن لمراسلنا أحمد راوشة خلال مشاركته معنا على الهواء من أسدود. ما الذي كان يقوله لك أحمد؟
عناصر من الشرطة الإسرائيلية يحاولون أو يراقبون ما الذي نتحدث، وخرج مرة واحدة للصراخ بهذه الطريقة وللتهديد بطبيعة الحال.
تهديد جديد للطواقم الصحفية كما نرى على الشاشة. عنصر من الشرطة الإسرائيلية يتدخل أثناء مشاركة زميلنا أحمد راوشة معنا على الهواء من أسدود. ليس هذا بالطبع هو التدخل
طبعا هو مسلح،
الأول.
يحمل مسدس. طبعا هو مسلح بطبيعة الحال. الآن ذهبوا من هذه المنطقة، لكنه كان مسلحا وكان معه عناصر مسلحون داخل السيارة.
Yeah, so this is kind of the part of the situation that's going on here is that you have highly indoctrinated members of the Israeli public and armed forces and police who are willing to literally threaten journalists on camera while they are broadcasting live. And they're willing to threaten to kill reporters. And a lot of people are saying, like even in this tweet that's sharing it, right? This is your concrete sign they are losing the media battle. The hearts and minds of the people are turning against these oppressors. And I hope that's correct. I hope that's correct. But what typically happens when fascists notice that they are losing the hearts and minds is that they clamp down harder and harder and harder. And this is, by the way, why I have been saying that I'm very worried about what Netanyahu is going to do with the over 500,000 troops massed on the edges of Gaza. You know, like, we have news articles right now. We have members of the Israeli press, and Mehdi Hassan pointed this out yesterday here. Netanyahu continues to face backlash inside of Israel. Veteran Israeli TV host says about the prime minister, "Don't wait. Put him on trial now. He is a war criminal." These are members of the Israeli press, you know, urging for Netanyahu to be arrested. Hey, Jim Moneymaker, I unbanned you. Did you watch this? Did you watch my coverage about Ezra Yachin? If you don't get it, you just don't get it. Did you watch my coverage about one Ezra Yachin? Someone who's being held up by the IDF as a member of like the glorious founding of Israel? Oh, you didn't. Okay. Well, you know how yesterday, or the day before, I don't know, time is wild and warping. Remember how you were quibbling about whether or not Jewish people could be Nazis? Ezra Yachin, who is in the media, he's 95 years old. He's being trotted out as a reservist for the IDF. Ezra Yachin fought for a group called Lahi. Lahi is an avowed, self-avowed terrorist organization that massacred Arabs throughout the Middle East in the name of founding the State of Israel. Additionally, Lahi attempted to, which was created in 1940, attempted to ally itself with with the Nazis. This isn't fascism, it is Nazism. They attempted to ally with the Nazis twice, officially ally themselves with the Nazis. Because Nazism wasn't just hating Jews. It wasn't then, and it's still not now. The person we were talking about wasn't a member of Lahi, was he? I never said Jews can't be Nazis. Are you just being pedantic to make me angry? Like, I'm sorry. Does someone shouting for the glassing of an entire Arab minority, is that not something a Nazi would advocate for? How do you know that specific person wasn't a Nazi? Every indicator we have in that video indicates that he would get on just fine with Nazis. That doesn't mean anyone who agrees with it is a Nazi. Okay, Jim Moneymaker, can you explain, because I'm really interested in your psychology here. Why are you so, like, not only are you married to this idea, you've spent now like 20 minutes of your life trying to say that someone calling for genocide is, oh, they're not a Nazi. Why? Why? Like we pulled up the definition of Nazi ideology. And it clearly falls under the banner of Nazi ideology. If a woman advocates for genocide of men, are they a Nazi? I'm trying to choose my words carefully because I hate you. And I don't want that to bait me into saying something that's TOS. I think Nazism is uniquely evil in anti-Semitism, and to summarize all the forms of bigotry and fascism as Nazism misses the point. Except that's not what I'm doing. You even saw that, right? When we pulled up the ideology. You saw that. You saw that anti-Semitism, while a common component, is by far not just the only component. You're right. Some people have, some non-Nazi fascists have attributes of Nazism. Would you agree, perhaps, that a group that looked at Nazi Germany's policies, both domestic and foreign, during World War II, and said, yes, we should ally with those people, would you agree that maybe it'd be fair to call them Nazis? Would you say that that would be fair? Yes. Okay. Would you then say it's also fair that if that group of people handed their ideology down a generation, and there were some people who believed exactly the same things, that those would also be, at the very least, neo-Nazis? Exact same beliefs, new generation. They would be fascists. Interesting. So you think that someone who believes the exact same thing as someone who you would classify as a Nazi isn't technically a Nazi? That's so fascinating. I don't feel calling them Nazis is completely accurate. Again, I didn't say Nazi. I said neo-Nazi. Because they are a new generation of Nazi, who might believe slightly updated things. So they are neo-Nazis. This is like a new formulation that you've found of like the, oh, there haven't been any real Nazis since 1945. If they believe in aligning with Nazis or neo-Nazis, then they're Nazi or neo-Nazi. Well, guess what? When you turn up to a rally chanting about the need to genocide an entire minority in the Middle East, you are de facto aligning yourself with Nazis who chant for the exact same thing. It's an explicit alignment along the same axis. Like, you even ran down the line of logic with me and said if they believe the same thing as people who allied themselves with the Nazis, and who you agreed would be called Nazis, well, they're not Nazis, even though they're not even neo-Nazis, even though they believe the same thing as people who allied themselves with Nazis. Well, Jim Moneymaker, here's a fun fact for you. If you interview, and I've talked with neo-Nazis, I've talked with them on my stream before. If you talk to different neo-Nazis, all of them are going to tell you different reasons for being neo-Nazis. All of them are going to tell you different bullshit that all boils down to the same thing. They want to genocide the Middle East. They want to genocide the Jews. They want to genocide, people outside of their ethno-state.
No one in any of the chats appreciate your pedantry.
Hell, you know what? You might even come across a particularly savvy neo-Nazi who's like, no. I don't believe in genociding the Jews. Give the Jews their own state. I just don't want them here. And if I'm sorry, dude, but if the line that you are religiously defending is like, well, you didn't read the contents of their heart. You just listened to what they were saying and doing, which was showing up at a fascist rally to advocate for genocide. Yeah, no. I didn't say that. Fuck! You are dumb. Fuck! You are dumb. You can religiously defend something even if you're an atheist. It's a term. It's a phrase. Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. Your language comprehension is beyond abysmal. And maybe this is the problem. Maybe you just don't understand words. Maybe you just don't understand words. Oh, I don't religiously defend anything. I'm an atheist. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. We are about to watch unfold a fucking genocide where people in America are going out and they are stabbing children to death. And you are sitting here arguing, oh, well, these people are Nazis. They just want to glass Gaza. They just want to glass the Gaza Strip. You're not being fair. You're not being fair to them. You're not being fair to the people who want to glass 2.2 million people. You're like, oh, well, I guess I would agree that, this one guy's a Nazi. That one guy who they are bringing up out of retirement into the IDF reserves is going around specifically on the orders of the IDF to rally the troops. He is going around to...
Just stop wasting.
He is going around to, encourage them. And do you know what he's saying as he's going around to encourage them? He's saying, kill them all. Kill them all. Wipe them out, men, women, and children. If you are a God-fearing Jew, you need to pick up a gun and murder your Arab neighbors. That is what he is telling members of the IDF. You fucking worm. You fucking worm. And you have the audacity, not just to come in here the other day and say, oh yeah, this other guy who's calling for the exact same thing as this actual Nazi from the 1940s. You're like, oh, well, you're being really unfair calling him a neo-Nazi. You're being really unfair to him calling him a neo-Nazi when the state of Israel is literally employing an actual Nazi who actually worked for a terrorist group that massacred Arab people while allying itself with Nazi Germany. The fucking audacity. There's a 6-year-old in America dead today because people who are being pedantic, people who are supporting the state of Israel, fearmonger about Palestinians to such a degree that the landlord of his building came in, attempted to murder his mother, and then stabbed that child, who is 6 years old, 26 times. The point I'm saying is that, and maybe this is where we're getting off the train, that I believe there can be two evil ideologies. Yeah, no shit! Of course there can! But you know what? Even within Nazism, there were differing ideologies, dipshit! There were Jewish people in Germany who caped for Hitler! You fucking worm! There were official organizations of differing political ideologies within Nazism. Yeah, no shit, there can be different opinions. There can be different ideologies that spread hatred, that can be evil. This is not new. But the fact that you know so little, that you think, oh, well, everyone who was a Nazi believed exactly the same thing. So therefore, anyone outside of that just couldn't be a Nazi or a neo-Nazi. What is wrong with you? Your brain is broken. And the fact that you came here a couple days ago to argue this pedantry to me, and then you came back here today to argue this pedantry to me. Something is broken in your heart and brain. Something is broken in you, and you need to fix it. Here's the 6-year-old boy who was murdered, by the way. Wadea Al-Fuyome. The suburban Chicago landlord accused of stabbing a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy to death and badly wounding his mother was ordered held behind bars on Monday. 71-year-old Joseph Kazuba answered yes, sir, to the judge, but otherwise sat quietly. He walked up to a 6-year-old boy and stabbed him 26 times. And you know what? It gets worse. Because it's not just that. In the petition requesting Kazuba be detained, Assistant State Attorney Michael Fitzgerald said that right before the attack, the landlord confronted the boy's mother, Hanan Shaheen, and told her he was angry at her for what was going on in Israel. Shaheen stated that she responded to him, "Let's pray for peace," and the petition said. Shaheen stated Kazuba gave her no chance to do anything, then attacked her with a knife. Kazuba, the boy's mother, told investigators was an angry man. His wife Mary told investigators that Kazuba listens to conservative talk radio on a regular basis and became obsessed with the war between Hamas and Israel. Shaheen also told the police he'd been texting Kazuba's wife about her husband's hatred for Muslims. Last Wednesday, October 11th, Kazuba said he wanted Shaheen and her son to move out of the home. Mary Kazuba told investigators. Shaheen told deputies that on the same day, Kazuba confronted her about what was going on in the Middle East. Kazuba's arraignment and detention came the day Wadea was laid to rest at a nearby cemetery. He died after the landlord stabbed him 26 times. His 32-year-old mother was stabbed a dozen times while trying to protect her son and call for help. Kazuba was screaming, "You Muslims have to die," when he barged into the ground floor apartment the mother and son shared in suburban Plainfield. He said, "You are killing our kids in Israel. You Palestinians don't deserve to live." Shaheen didn't have even 1% suspicion he would hurt the child because Kazuba had been like a grandfather to Wadea and even built him a treehouse. This is what hatred does to you. The child, when he saw Kazuba, ran to him for a hug and instead was stabbed 26 times. You guys think Kristallnacht came out of nowhere? You think an entire country of people becomes complicit with genocide out of nowhere? No, this ideology, it rots you to your core. It sinks in so deep from the Matt Walshes and Ben Shapiro's and Fox News's of the world. It sinks into your heart. And it kills people. That guy didn't hate that child until people told him to hate him. He built that kid a treehouse. That kid knew him and was comfortable enough with him to run to him for a hug. This is a sickness. And yeah, I'll call it like I see it. It's the same sickness that was active in Germany in the 30s and 40s. It's the same thing. Just with a slight bit carved out. All of the Islamophobia, all of the hatred for the Middle East stayed in. It's how Benjamin Netanyahu can go in front of the entire world and say that actually the reason that Hitler was forced to do the Holocaust was because of the Muslims. It's how the leader of Israel can engage in Holocaust denial on a global stage. There is a direct line here. There is a direct fucking line. And I have no patience. Learn your history. If you are going to be someone who's going to be pedantic about the classification of people who are Nazis, who are using Nazi rhetoric in the modern day, then you better fucking know your history. 'Cause I sure as shit do. Alright? You better come at me with something better than, did you know two ideologies can both be evil at the same time, but in different ways? Well, motherfucker, did you know that there were multiple ideologies in Nazism? Why do you think Hitler had to do the fucking Night of the Long Knives? Why do you think they had to do that? And I'm really worried we're gonna see more. I'm really worried we're gonna see more. I'm really scared we're gonna see more stories like Wadia. Because, I mean, this stuff is on Fox News all day, every day, chat.
I don't think
all day, every day.
we can have a Palestinian
Why is there no audio?
state at this point. I've had it.
So weird.
And I don't like
Oh, I'm not hearing it. 1 second. Are you guys hearing it?
Palestinian state at this point. I've had it with the Palestinians. I've given up on the Palestinians. If I was in Israel,
heard it? Okay.
I wouldn't be talking about a Palestinian state right now. I don't think Joe Biden should be talking about a Palestinian state right now. And I don't like how people tried to differentiate between the Palestinians and Hamas. To me, I see people with guns. That's Hamas. The people without the guns are the Palestinians. They believe the same thing. The Palestinians hire Hamas to run their government. You poll them, they all love killing Jews. It's in their charter. They say they believe in suicide bombings. Every time a Palestinian refugee goes to another country, it doesn't work out so well for the other country and for those Palestinians. No one wants them. You don't see Egypt opening up their doors. You don't see Jordan opening up. You don't see the Saudis. Why don't they want the Palestinians, Dana? I think we all know why they don't want the Palestinians, and it's not working out, having these Palestinians and Hamas right next door to the Israelis.
I mean, like, the media in America right now, chat, is filled with genocide apologia. No, like, conservatives are just straight up looking into the camera and saying that they want every Palestinian to be put down like a dog. Like, I'm sorry. Let me read you something that he just said. I'm just going to replace the word Palestinian with Jew. Actually, yeah. I'm just going to read the entire thing. I've had it with the Jews. I've given up on the Jews. If I was in the Middle East, I wouldn't be talking about a Jewish state right now. I don't think Joe Biden should be talking about a Jewish state right now. And I don't like how people try to differentiate between oh god. I'm just going to go back to reading the first paragraph. Every time a Jewish refugee goes to another country, it doesn't work out so well for the other country and for those Jewish people. No one wants them. You don't see Egypt opening up their doors. You don't see Jordan opening up. You don't see the Saudis. Why don't they want the Jews, Dana? I think we all know why. They don't want the Jews. And it's not working out, having these Jews and Hamas right next door. Like, again, not a perfect. I didn't know what group to replace Hamas with. But you get it, right? In the 1930s and 40s, the United States was saying the exact same thing. The exact same thing. The United States turned away boatloads of Jewish refugees from Europe. Boatloads of Jewish refugees because we didn't want those filthy Jews in America. You know, that was the argument in the 1930s. And Fox News is just using an updated version of that to bar Palestinians from being accepted in America or anywhere else for that matter. Now, lovers' quarrels. I do know that some European nations, I believe, are sending aid to Egypt. Part of the problem is the only way to get anything into Egypt right now is the Rafah border crossing, which Israel is bombing. So. Yeah, as of today, the World Health Organization issued a warning saying there is only 24 hours of water, electricity, and fuel left in Gaza. And Al Jazeera is also reporting increased shelling of the Gaza Strip, which is the precursor to the ground invasion, which if I had to put money on it, would be tomorrow. It's gonna be fucking terrible. Here, I'm gonna break the tension a little bit. One of my favorite shows was Anthony Bourdain's like travel cooking shows where he would go to different places and learn how to cook different food from the people there, hang out with them, learn their stories. And one of the things that he managed to get done in a time where it was, you know, almost impossible to get something like this on the air on mainstream television. He went to Palestine. He went to learn about Palestinian life, and here's a There we go. And by the way, this is because there's not free travel between the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And there's a non-zero chance that everyone in this clip is dead. Because they are being forced from their homes, trapped under rubble, or just blown to bits. Dying from lack of water, lack of medical supplies, lack of fuel. Yeah, no, make no mistake. The order to evacuate northern Gaza is ethnic cleansing. They are saying either you leave northern Gaza or we will kill you. And many, many people in the Gaza Strip are saying, well, we're gonna die anyway, so we're gonna die in our homes. If we leave, we will never see our homes again. And they are right. They are very likely correct. Where are they going to go? Well, you know, the real answer is there is nowhere to go. Israel has closed all of the border crossings. Egypt has closed the one border crossing Israel doesn't control. They've closed it to refugees. Yeah, Dusty Dan, Anthony Bourdain was a real one. I liked him a lot. I think Israel wants them to be let in to Egypt so they can take Gaza. Well, yeah. But also they don't want to let Palestinian refugees into Israel because they don't want to incorporate Palestinians into the voting process. You know, it's the most extreme form of gerrymandering possible. They do not want Palestinians to have a voice in the fate of, you know, Israeli politics. So they want that's why they are closing. You know, one of the many reasons why they haven't annexed, you know, the Gaza Strip or the West Bank, because they don't want to enfranchise those people. And by the way, this is one of the main reasons why apartheid continued in South Africa for so long. They did not want to enfranchise black South Africans. Additionally, Egypt doesn't want to let through refugees because they're worried about the proliferation of the Muslim Brotherhood's ideology, which is something that the Egyptian government basically finds anathema. Like I'm trying to think of an analogy here. It'd be like the United States government trying to decide whether or not to take couple million Afghan refugees without vetting them first, and being worried about the Taliban proliferating in the United States or something along those lines. That, and it's really not super well. Yeah, the other part is on the other side of the Rafah border crossing is just like desert, and they do not have the infrastructure to handle 2.2 million refugees suddenly coming into existence on the other side. And I mean, the Israeli plan is nonsense, right? The Israeli military's plan right now is essentially evacuate northern Gaza, send in the ground invasion to kill, 15,000 of Hamas's members, and then you pull the ground invasion back and allow all of the refugees from southern Gaza to run back to the northern half of Gaza, and then send the ground invasion into southern Gaza. Like, it's insane. The real plan, the real plan is just, well, those 2.2 million people are just inconvenient, and if most of them die in the course of executing this ground invasion, that's fine. If we kill civilians, we can just say that they were suspected Hamas terrorists. I mean, like, that's what they already do anyway. They bomb, and then they say, oh, we got one suspected terrorist, and we killed 11 other civilians, but we got one. And what they're doing right now, limiting internet access, limiting electricity, limiting fuel, limiting travel. Well, frankly, fewer and fewer reporters, because reporters seem to be getting targeted by bombs and snipers and such. With fewer reporters on the ground and no new reporters being allowed in, and no electricity and no internet, well, the IDF is waiting out the supplies of journalists in order to, have a communications blackout of what happens in the Gaza Strip. Most likely, there are going to be catastrophic war crimes. The Israeli state government doesn't start propagating genocidal propaganda unless it is intending and actively laying the groundwork for mass murder. The current course of the Israeli government is genocide. There's no way around that. And there's also no way around the fact that what has already been happening has been ethnic cleansing for the last century or so, 80 years or so, since the Nakba. You could argue even since before the Nakba. And it's been one long, slow attempt to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from the area. And this is kind of the final stretch of that. You can only ethnically cleanse so much before you finally just do a genocide. It's a lot. Yeah, no, the Israeli defense minister, who is in the war cabinet, has talked about needing to, level everything. Netanyahu has talked about needing to destroy all Palestinians. Basically, everyone in the war cabinet who is deciding how this war is going to be going to be conducted are in favor of mass executions of Palestinians. The only thing that can bring this closer to an end is international pressure. And most importantly on that front is US diplomatic pressure. So, one of the things I want to look at tonight is the 60 Minutes interview that Joe Biden did yesterday. Because, frankly, it's really, really... what the president says matters, right? What the president of the United States says matters. And when we're talking about Donald Trump, of course he just says random shit that doesn't mean anything. He's full of bullshit. With a normal president like Joe Biden's words are generally very carefully chosen and indicate what he is trying to accomplish on an international scale. One of the things I've noticed from different things Biden has been saying, different actions that are being taken on the diplomatic stage, a lot of it does seem to indicate that the United States is shifting diplomatic position on Israel. And it's very slight. It's not a lot. You know, you haven't seen Biden come out and say Benjamin Netanyahu needs to resign, or, you know, we're going to discontinue foreign aid to Israel. But oh, Kyrie, you're fine. But basically, we need to figure out where the president's at with this. We can't do anything. I mean, we can certainly put pressure on Joe Biden. We can certainly protest. That doesn't hurt. You can certainly call your senators, your representatives. But let's see what Biden had to say. I mean, that's not as heartening as I was hoping for, but the fact that he voiced support for a two-state solution indicates to me that, like, he's not going to sit idly by if genocidal action occurs, which is good. Just, you know, not great that it would have to get that bad. If only he acted and took initiative as wonderfully as he speaks. Yeah,